Agree with Lily. I don't want to admit it, but she may have a point. Something else bugs me though. And you try to amend this? Wait, our outing into the city? Quite astute. I thought that it might help if I dragged both of you out of Yumako and into the wider world. I'm thankful you became closer for it though. So she noticed that. I suppose she may well have been paying attention to us, and her hearing is incredibly good. Quite likely good enough to have picked up what we're talking about if she tried. This sounds more and more like you were manipulating us. That's not a nice way of putting it. Silence is a harsh way of putting it, but I've no intention of stepping back from those words. I'm sorry, I was just worried about you. It's fine. I guess there are more important things anyways. Like, it's not a total surprise that she'd do such a thing. Her motherly nature can be slightly overbearing at times, but she does have the best of intentions, exactly. So you think I should think about myself more instead of trying to cater to Hanako? That largely sums it up. Again, I'm sorry for not telling you this in a clearer way before going behind your back. I know I am the least as guilty of being overprotective of Hanako as you, but I fear that you are neglecting yourself in your efforts to give Hanako happiness. Do you really think Hanako would be okay? She isn't as fragile as you think. I don't know exactly what experiences she's lived through, what feelings she has in her mind, but she managed to work her way through until now. It's also my hope that giving her a little space will allow her to decide what she truly wants for herself, and give her the initiative to reach out for it. Please have faith in Hanako. That's all I ask. I guess I'll think about it for a while. That's good. Being rash won't get you anywhere. I know that at times you may doubt your relationship with Hanako, but she does. Lily cuts herself off and takes a moment to reconsider her words. Please keep in mind that I wouldn't have befriended you if I hadn't thought of you as a fundamentally good person. You're a good friend, both to myself and to Hanako. Thank you. That helps. We share some small talk and try to lighten the atmosphere, but it feels very stilted. There's a lot I don't know about Lily's stay in Scotland, but after such a heavy subject, I want to be alone for a bit to think. After a few minutes, we end up saying our goodbyes, and I set my phone on my desk. Compared to Hanako's situation, mine feels utterly mundane. I still have both, yep, reasonable normal childhood, and unlike many in Yumako, my condition isn't immediately visible to the public. But then again, is this just an attempt to justify the way I've been acting towards her? That may well be what pasts were like, but when it comes to the future, I still have no idea what I want to do. In school, I've just concentrated on each day's work, and I've put more off on more things. That may well be what our pasts were like, but when it comes to the future, I still have no idea what I want to do. In school, I've just concentrated on each day's work, and I've put off more and more things to cater to Hanako. I recall the words Muto told me about Hanako's breakdown, about the purpose of Yumako and my education. In hindsight, he was probably trying to push exactly the same thing. Just what have I been doing in the time since my heart attack? If I ever did manage to get Hanako out of her room and to open up, what then? I look out my dormitory window as the sun slowly sets. It's a nice sight, but what I really savour is the quiet as the students return to their dormitory rooms. All I want to do now is think. I'm not sure how much time I have, but I want to work out where I'll go from here. Which is a good idea rather than trying to force Hanako to open up a conversation when she doesn't want to. You should let her tread along her own pace. Since talking to Lily yesterday, I've wanted to try and move on from the listlessness I felt ever since coming to Yumako. But even if I try to concentrate on the book in front of me, Hanako's empty seat at the back of the classroom looms larger than life. Every time I start getting focused, my eyes flicker over to her desk again, and my mind starts spinning. And once more, my eyes drift over to it, but this time my vision is blocked by a certain other classmate, the one we've seen before. Oh, hi, hey Miki. Maybe you should just have lunch. I can hear your stomach growling from my desk. I let my head drop in disappointment. She seems to take some amusement from my reaction and hops up onto my desk. Her grin as she sits on it reminds me of a Cheshire cat. So, what you working on? Some math. I have a decent handle on it, but I just wanted to revise. Oh, really? Let me see that. Before I can object, she grabs my mathematics book with her hand. She scans the page I was on, holding it open with the one hand she has, her left arm sitting uselessly on her lap. In my time here at Yamako, I've noticed that the other students have a wide range of adjustment to their disabilities on a purely practical level. Miki is one of those who seem to have some trouble. The stump of her left arm tends to be either hanging by her side, slipped into a pocket, or otherwise put out of the way. Sometimes she has a difficult time doing common tasks, which makes her visibly quite frustrated. I feel a little bad for thinking this way, but I'm thankful that Hanako and I don't have disabilities affecting our freedom of movement to that extent. Then again, if Miki's problems worsened, at least she wouldn't have a real possibility of... Why do you ever think that? My attention is refocused as she thumbs through a few pages, skimming their contents. With such casual interest in the subject matter, it's clear by now that she won't be any help. I'm guessing you're not too interested in this stuff. Screw math, it's boring as hell. She puts the book back in front of me with indifference. Her eyes move to the notebook beside it that I'd been working out practice equations on. Wait, you're actually able to work that stuff out? Yeah. Well, I've never talked to a computer with legs before. Thanks, I think. At least I'm doing better in this than history. Think it's worth asking the librarian for help? I heard she's shooting for uni. Ah, Yuko. Maybe... I don't know what she wants to study though. So what about you? Got anything you're thinking of doing after you graduate? Me? Nah, not really. Just enjoying while it lasts. She looks a little awkward when asked about her future and absent-mindedly rubs her left forearm. I kind of want to ask her about it, but I don't think I know her well enough to do so. The conversation peters out and I lean back in my chair, giving up on the prospect of studying. Miki notices my tired expression looks oddly serious. Thinking about Hanako? It's that obvious. You've been glancing at her seat and you've been pretty quiet, not too hard to connect the dots. I'm just worried about her. Yeah, I can see why you would be. She can get weird sometimes. She sounds put off, but I can't blame her. Hanako was a hard person to interact with before she warmed up to me. Even with Lydia around to help, I haven't known her for that long either, so some of her habits will still be unknown to me. My face becomes troubled. If I hadn't developed feelings for her, this would be at least a little easier to deal with. I mean, no offense, she isn't a bad person, I know that much. I know, I didn't take it that way. It's just harder to deal with when, you know, you have feelings for someone. Yeah, I can imagine that. It's hard to forget something like what happened to her during class too. I wish she hadn't reminded me of that. She just confirmed it was clearly noticed by others in the class in the room as well. Come on, don't get that down. She's done this before. You just gotta wait it out. She locks herself in her room and acts like an empty husk of a person for a sizable amount of time. Ever since she entered Yamako, if not before then as well. And I'm not supposed to be concerned about that? Well, I might think that, but there's nothing that I can do. I can't force her to come out. And she does see a therapist, so it's not like she isn't getting any help for her issues. Maybe it's natural to think that way when you're so powerless to help someone. That's just the way she is, and you just have to deal with it. Let's see. As I mull things over, I notice a movement out of the corner of my eye. I glance to see who it is and end up doing a double take. Hello there! Sure enough, it's Hanako. She walks through the door just as she would any normal school day, and begins to move towards her seat in a usually silent and humble manner. She looks at me for a moment before blushing, looking away in embarrassment, which makes me realise that I was staring at her. I feel sorry for that, but not doing it as hard after all that's happened. The girl sitting at my desk looks at me grinning. See? Your sweetheart's back already. What did I tell you? You don't have to be so loud, you know. You be quiet. It might only be meant as a joke, but she hits close enough to make me quite uncomfortable. As we talk, someone calls Miki's name from the door. She jumps down from her vantage point on my desk before turning to me. Gotta go, Hisao. Remember to eat something, will ya? Sometime, will ya? Fine, I will. See you. You think we look tired to the point we didn't even get anything to eat? She gives a casual salute before jogging over to the door, where a male student in gym uniform is waiting for her. Probably someone from the track and field team. Seizing the opportunity, I get up and make my way to Hanako's desk. Hello. Hi, Hanako. What's up? Nothing. Maybe talking to her visitor after she came back to class was a bad move. Want to come with me and grab something from the cafeteria? I'm pretty hungry. But I thought you were studying. Studying can wait. Turning up for class after all this time must have taken some courage for Hanako, so the least I can do is stay with her. That's just the way she is and you just have to deal with it. It's the way Miki, and probably the class as a whole, views Hanako. I could do more for her though. I want to do more for her. After being distracted by Miki, I don't think I'm going to get any work done. Come on, let's go. She hesitates but eventually gets up and joins me as we begin walking. These may be small steps for her, but the fact that she's finally out of a room of her own violation lifts a large weight off my shoulders. Indeed. You can tell that things are going upwards rather than downwards or just neutral. We're at the Shanghai Cafe then. My pen busily scrolls onto a slowly filling page of my notebook. My other hand remains on the page of a reference book I borrowed from the library, marking my spot as my eyes flicker to and fro. As I work, I occasionally mark red circles or underlines onto the photocopied sheets of paper that lie on the table in front of me. Wanting to change the scenery from the library and to avoid the distractions of the classroom, I decided to make use of the Shanghai for some quiet study time. It ended up being nice and quiet as expected, and being able to get coffee while I study is a nice bonus. Hanako may have returned to her normal self since she came out of the room, but I've done quite the opposite. Daily routine may have returned us to normal, but I feel as if I'm a different person. Maybe I'm not, it's only been a few days. After all, since I've decided I wanted to try and get out of the rut I'd find myself in after my accident, but I wanted to change, and I'm now actively working towards that goal, or at least I would like to think I am. Ugh, this is impossible. Brute forcing this isn't going to work. What's more, I have another piece of writing I have to do after this. I fear that's going to be no easier. I look up in mid-surprise to the source of a tentative voice. Hello, Yuko. Yuko stands at the end of the table with a damp towel in hand, clearly having taken the opportunity to clean the tables while no other patrons were around. It's not good to have lunch and then get back to recording. Oh dear. She looks curious, her eyes as much my work as on me. What's the matter? I was just wondering, what sort of work are you having so much trouble with? Oh, it's just history. I'm fine with science and math, so I'm trying to get my other subjects up to par. Yuko looks positively delighted at this development. I feel like I just chose the right answer on some big quiz. Oh, I think I can help you with that. If you don't mind, of course. I briefly considered turning down the offer in order to not cause her too much trouble, but she looks too excited about this for me to do it. It would be mean to shoot her down like that after such a reaction. If you're willing to help, I'd really appreciate it. She claps her hands together and quickly deposits her towel on the counter before returning and taking a seat across from me. Let's see, I take my notebook off the top of the textbook and hand it over for her to peruse. So you're studying the Edo period? Yeah, I'm not really much good at this though. She takes the textbook and reads a few pages from a random section near the middle of a bit. For a bit, so the all enthusiasm she's been radiating previously is rapidly slipping away. I'm guessing this isn't the kind of history you were expecting. Unfortunately not. My main area is European history, especially in the classical era. Sorry. She looks a bit downcast, but as she carefully closes the book and lays it back down on the table, her face perks up again. Would you like another cup of coffee? Oh, yeah, sure. I reach forward and get my book back as Yuka gets up, takes my mug, and slowly walks to the counter to make another brew. As usual, she's absolutely silent as she does this. Every ounce of her concentration is focused on not tripping over or dropping the plain white mug. I take the opportunity to lay back and relax her for a bit, the hum of a coffee machine filling the otherwise quiet air. It's small details like that which makes me realise how much I've come to appreciate the little things in life. The peace and quiet of the local town, the discipline and order of Yumako, the green of the trees that was so rare in my home city, the relaxed pace of which the aging residents live their lives. Everything feels so certain. It's comforting. I can feel myself beginning to nod off. with the sound of the mug coming to rest on the table grabs my attention. Seems like it arrived not a moment too soon. Yuko takes a previous seat once again as I pick myself up and bring a hand around the mug to check its temperature. It's just a little too hot to drink right away, so I blow on it in a little. It's a shame you don't like history all that much. I sort of guess you might be more into science. How so? You've nearly read out the science fiction section of the library already. It wasn't hard to notice. You do have a good point there. Well, what can I say? You've pegged me just about right. You sound like you really take an issue. You sound like you really take an interest in history, though, especially considering how specific you were about it. Do you study in that area or something? Go on digs overseas? She giggles nervously about the thought. I like to visit the Mediterranean sometimes, see the old agriculture and art for myself, but I don't think I can trust myself to handle such delicate things. I'm saving up to formally study in a university, although I also read up on it wherever I have free time outside of work. So Miki was right about her university aspirations, considering how she fares as a waitress. A more theoretical path may suit Yuko better. It's nice to hear that she has some ambitions though, considering how hard she works so. Something along those lines. I don't know why I'm having trouble speaking today. I nod and take a careful sip of my coffee. By now it's cooled to the right temperature, so I begin to drink while keeping an eye on the book below, trying to read at the same time. A few minutes pass quietly. Yuko looks out the window and watching the world go by while I have my coffee and study. A moment catches my eye, and I look up to see Yuko smiling and waving to someone outside. Following her gaze, surprisingly reveals the someone to be Yuko. Hanako, sorry. She is looking at us from the side of the street across from where we are. Her usually all too visible timidity is largely absent, probably thanks to there being so few people around right now. Evidently, she decides to join us after a little wave. She gives a quick glance up and down the street and crosses towards the side that the cafe is on. Hello there. The familiar doorbell to the Shanghai rings out as Hanako enters and makes her way to the table we're sitting at. Hello. Good afternoon. Hi Hanako, what's up? Nothing, just going for a walk since the weather was nice. Yeah, I get what you mean. I'm glad I decided to study here instead of the library. It's comfortable in here thanks to that. Better than the sometimes quite stuffy library. I look to Yuko, who nods in response. It's nice. It's just a shame that summer can't last forever. It's a great shame that summer can't last forever. Oh wait, sorry, would you like a drink? Hanako shakes her head. Thankfully it's enough to calm Yuko back down, sorry. How are you going with studying? Okay-ish. Oh yeah, have you talked with Lily? I'm interested too. How's she doing? She's enjoying it, I think. I think that's all we're going to get out of her. Being around Yuko is tensing her up. Ah, it would be so nice to travel to Scotland. Scotland! Green fields, castles, lovely small towns, men in kilts, interesting history. Men in kilts. I can't say I see the appeal of men in kilts myself. It does seem like a picturesque place though. As we talk, the jingle of the doorbell rings again. Hanako startled, witnessing Yuko's panicked expression as the prospect that she might leave customers to wait a handful of seconds due to her chatter with us. Yuko gives us a quick bow, then hastily skitters over and greets the new customers, an elderly man and his wife. I watch her for a bit, craning my head around to get a good view. Hanako is staring at me with her one visible eye. She averts her head in embarrassment as I turn to make eye contact. I was just thinking that it's nice to have ambitions for the future. Yuko was telling me a little about her university aspirations before. Oh, it's a shame. If she wasn't so neurotic and overworked, I think she could be a really happy person. As much as I'd like to play host to Hanako and entertain her a bit, I do need to study as well. To be honest, I don't think the distraction from Yuko helped either. Sorry if I'm a bit distracted. I need to try and get this done, otherwise I'm going to flunk the history exams pretty hard. I'm left running my hand through my hair in frustration. That letter needs doing as well, once I get back to my dormitory room. I hope I have more luck with that than this. Damn. What with? Oh, I was going to write to Hanako. Right now, though, this is more important. All I've done is rattle myself. I can't focus on the work in front of me when my stomach is slowly turning at the prospect of actually attempting to write her back. After all this time, I'll force myself to concentrate on the book, picking up my pen once I have a quick sip of coffee. After a few seconds, Hanako stops silently watching me and leans back in her seat, relaxing as much as she ever seems to be able to, looking out the window to pass the time. We stayed like this for a long time before leaving for the dormitories together. I'm surprised she had the patience to wait me out. I think she is quite a patient person by nature for other people, because people are patient for her. Iwanika's letter lies on my desk beside a blank sheet of lined paper and an unused envelope, but tapping my pen is the only thing to be heard this late at night. As I feared, my second task for the day turns out to be just as difficult as the first, if not harder. It's been so many months since we even saw each other. Even so, I can still remember what she looked like, what she sounded like, and what she acted like. By now, though, the little details are beginning to slip away. When I first saw her letter, I barely recognized her handwriting at all. Even the pink pen she always used was forgotten until her writing reminded me of it. I wonder why she didn't use it for the letter. She used to write everything with it. Maybe she thinks it's too immature now. I should be thinking about myself and about what I want to communicate to her. My mind can't stop concentrating on her though. On the past we shared before, it was taken away so suddenly. The bright and slightly garish decorations suit her sense of aesthetics. Picking up the letter to take a closer look at it, I give a long sigh. This is the last link binding me to the past. Iwanako doesn't suddenly cease to exist when she left my hospital room for the last time, but I need this letter to remind me of that. I had all those feelings neatly filed away. I felt as if I didn't need them, that I could just begin life completely anew. It was easier that way. It's easy to think like that, but you can't put the past behind you, because it will always creep up on you no matter how much you want to go, because it's always there in your head. In the end, I suppose that was a rather naive thing to think. Sooner or later my past would have caught up with me one way or another. But what am I supposed to say to her? Thank you for bringing me closure? All the letter did was end the sense of closure I'd previously felt. Try as I might, I can't write so much as a single word down on the paper in front of me. I can't even think of what exactly I want to say. Putting the letter down on top of my blank sheet, I gather material together and file them away in my drawer. The clunk the desk makes it as close. The clunk the desk. The clunk the desk makes as it closes makes me momentarily tense in frustration. Before I get up to go grab a drink from the vending machines on the first floor. I tried, but I couldn't do it. After all the time that's passed, I still don't know how to deal with Iwanako. The library, while not humming with activity, is noticeably more busy than usual. Exams are not far away, and that's reflected in the number of students burying their noses in textbooks at the tables around us. I've been studying quite a lot in the past few days, just like them, in hoping of doing well in the exams. This also means that Hanako and I have been playing games less, so she's begun studying as well just to fill in the time. Nevertheless, I found myself forsaken by her on this particular day, The textbook in front of me has remained on the same page for some time. After so much reading on subjects I couldn't care less about if not for the exams, my mind is beginning to wander. I find my eyes flickering over to where Hanako would usually be, just like on the day she wasn't in class. Her usual beanbag in the corner of the room is conspicuously unoccupied. It was here that we first really met. I tried to start a conversation with her. She got skittish and eventually bolted from the room altogether. I probably shouldn't smile about it, but it was kind of amusing in hindsight. Nowadays it's more and more difficult to imagine her doing such a thing, even with Lily gone for the time being. She's been doing well now that she's come out of her room. I want to talk with her, or at least play another game of chess. I'm tired of studying, and it's been a few days since we've really done anything together. The question of where to find Hanako is a particularly difficult one. If she's not in the library, chances are that she's either in a tea room for some peace and quiet, or in a dormitory room. Decide to check them in that order. I pick up my books and make my way out of the library. Okay, so it seems that the tea room wasn't successful. I stretch and give a loud groan as I walk down the hallway. Studying may be frustrating at times, but with the progress I feel I've made, there's also some sense of pride in getting it done. It's a good feeling. There isn't a sound to be heard from inside as I stand in front of the door to Hanako's room. I guess that isn't very indicative of whether she's inside or not, given how quiet she usually is. Still, she wasn't in the tea room. I try knocking lightly to make my presence known, but I'm surprised when I find the door unlocked and yielding at my touch. Hello there. With a small creak, the door opens. It looks like my suspicions were correct. Hanako is indeed here. She's sitting at a table with an open book in front of her, but pays it no heed as she keeps looking out the window. She looks utterly oblivious to my presence. With her head thoughtfully resting on her hand, she looks calm and collected. It's a shame she can't look like this more often. Smile a little, I'll walk up to the table and softly speak to her. Good evening, Hanako. Hanako turns a little to see me, but she's still only half there. I put a hand on the table and lower my head to better look at her face, mildly curious about what mood she's in. What's up? She gasps a little, finally acknowledging my presence in the room for the first time. Hanako's blushing really heavily. Her mouth is open just a little, as if paused mid-sentence. Most strikingly, though, is what she's doing. Wow. She's looking directly at me. Her eyes are pinned on my own, from such a close distance that I can almost see my reflection in them. They don't turn away, nor move at all. They're absolutely still, just looking into mine. They're dark, and give her an almost analytical air. Even when reading on subjects she has no interest in, she would appear to be wrapped in her work to a casual observer. She absorbs information very well, and even now I can feel that. I feel like I'm seeing something beyond those eyes that I never saw before. I don't know what it is, though, but that blushing can give a bit of an indicator. Hanako? Her lips move just a little, silently mouthing something. She looks like she's on the verge of saying something but won't say it. But that's the way Hanako always is, on the verge of saying something but never quite doing it. As I look intently into her eyes, I realize something. Everyone has their own thoughts, things they want to say, their own worldview. But I can't work out what Hanako wants to say, and I can't work out what she's thinking. I never have been able I never have been able to. But this is something we need her to figure out on her own. It's frustrating. It feels like I don't know her at all, despite all the time we spent together. Hi? Sao? It's only now that I find myself blushing. I've been looking directly into Hanako's eyes from such a short distance with absolutely no regard for her, and she's been looking into mine without shrieking away. I quickly look away while covering my face with my hand. Hanako does just the same. Another awkward silence reigns. I hate these. At first I accepted them as just being a fact of life around Hanako, but now all they feel like is an information about how little we're able to communicate. Some anger makes its way in the complex mixture of emotions I'm experiencing right now. I want to bridge the gap between us. Friends shouldn't have to tiptoe around each other like this. I speak before I can argue myself out of what I'm going to do. My scarring isn't as bad as Hanako's, and I can't possibly compare my life to hers, but I want to show her that she's not alone. Doing this in such a blunt manner might be the only way to get my point across. Hanako, I want to show you something. I take a deep breath to prepare myself. This could backfire badly, but I feel as if we've come close enough for this day to be okay. I'm not going to strip naked or anything. I'm just going to take off my shirt. Hanako's eyes glow to the size of saucers. Her face is amusing fixture of curiosity and nervousness as she stands. It helps take the edge off my own nervousness at doing this in front of another person. Slowly my entire body feeling tense, I unknot my tie and begin to loose the first of the buttons. I try to mentally block out Hanako to make this easier, but it's not really working. As I work my way down, I expect to hear some form of protest from her. She remains silent, though, which just makes this feel even stranger. With the last of my shirt unbuttoned, I take a breath and look at her. And Hanako's gaze is fixed on my scarring, As expected, and once I nod to say it's okay, she steps forward and tentatively places a hand on the vertical line running down my chest. Something they share in common. One's is easier to make hidden though. The scarring on her hand, a pattern of damaged skin across its surface, contrasts with the single uniform line that makes up mine. Well, makes up mine. Her hand isn't trimmed at all, unlike what I predicted. This is the scar from the surgery that followed my heart attack. The surgeons had to cut open my chest to operate on my heart. I never knew. Hanako's words are calmer and softer than usual. The soft feeling of her fingers moving from my scar to my breast makes me hesitate a little before continuing on. You are the first person to see this since I left the hospital. But why are you showing this to me? I wanted to prove to myself that I could do this, but I could accept my past and move on. I wanted to show that to you as well. She nods. From her reaction, she seems to know how difficult this is for me. More than anything, this scar represents a visible reminder of my condition, a reminder that I'm not normal anymore. Who is normal though? That's something that, until now, I've had tried my hardest to ignore. As the minutes tick by, Hanako's gaze lingers. Her eyes look less focused on my scarring than before. The situation feels a bit different than it previously did, and makes me feel slightly uncomfortable. Her hand retreats, and I draw my shirt close and begin to button up. Her blushing face suddenly returns to its typical tense and timid state as she looks away. The room is completely silent as I fix my shirt and tie, feeling put off after such a unexpectedly intimate moment. So, I guess you're not the only one that's scarred. Hanako smiles a little at the joke, faintly lightening the atmosphere a bit. Thank you, Hisao. I think I understand. I give a long sigh of relief. I really didn't know how she'd take it, but I'm glad everything seems to have worked out as I hoped. Hanako's smile only proves that further. I'm finding the path I want to follow now, and what Hanako needs to do is to find her own. It's something I can't help her with. You can, in a way, but not tell her you have to do this, you have to do that, I want to protect you, you're going to be protected by me, you're going to be protected by Lily. It's more the fact that you have that helping hand if you need it. And it's something that she needs to overcome her past in order to do. Hanako checks her watch, it's getting late by now. Hi Sal, yeah, I better be going. I'll be thankful for some sleep. It's been a long day after all. Something tells me this is not going to be so abrupt. Good night, Hanako. Good night. Okay. I make my way out of her room into the hallway, remain silent as I do so. I think both of us have gone through a few emotions today. Okay, so it was abrupt. I'm a little bit thankful for that. The heat of the summertime sun beats down on my sweating brow. Dabbing with a handkerchief doesn't help too much in making me any more comfortable. Giving up the idea of getting more done today, I stop and lean against one of the overpass fences, resting my bag on the ground. The stores in the town below Yamako are well stocked and offer enough variety for me to get by, but at least an occasional shopping trip to the city is something that can't be avoided. I've been here a few times now. The city's layout is getting more familiar, and the nostalgia from its atmosphere is beginning to wear off. I've realised I've begun to wheeze. I sound like an old man that's overexerting himself, and having to connect that to the fact that I'm the source is a bit disturbing. I put a hand on my chest and concentrate for a bit to make sure I haven't gone far enough to cause any further problems. Thankfully my heart is acting normally, there's no dull pain, and the beating is regular, albeit fast pace, as I recover from overdoing things in this kind of heat. I hate my body. It's frustrating to be held back, even more to be held back by fear of my life being ended, when doing something as simple as walking around the city for a while. As I ponder on my health, I feel my pocket vibrating. By the time my phone's begun to ring, my hand is already fishing for it. A glance at the screen shows a number I don't recognize. Strange. Shrugging, I press the button to answer the call and bring the phone to my ear. Hello, Hisao Nakai speaking. The sound of a couple of short breaths can be heard, but no actual speech is forthcoming. Hello? Hisao? It's Hanako. Her voice is really easy to place, but even if I've never heard it over a phone before. Hanako, sorry, I wasn't expecting you to call. What's up? If you're not busy, I was wondering if you would like to meet up? Yes, I mean, she sounds really wound up about this. I can hear muffled voices in the background, and it's about time for afternoon tea, so I guess she'll want me to meet her at Shanghai or something. That sounds fine. Are you at Shanghai? I'm in the city. Hanaka's here? Alone? That's a surprise. It's a wonder she's like this, if she's surrounded by people and entirely by herself. That works out well, I'm just wandering around there now. Where are you? Hanako managed to stammer out the street name, address, and some basic direction to where she is. Lucky it's not too far, so I agreed to see her soon before I hang up. Yay, I look up to the sky, the summer heat is beating down. This is the first time Hanako's asked for us to do something together beyond a simple board game, and the first time, at least since I've known her, she's come to the city by herself. Maybe this means that Lily was right. Lily was indeed right. By the time I managed to stagger up to the cafe where Hanako is, I started to wheeze again. I'm sweating so much it feels like I'm a melting popsicle and can barely hold the bag in my hand. I need to sit down badly. The tables outside are all occupied by busily chatting couples and girls gossiping between themselves. The contrast between the different age groups and fashions of the people here and the people from the town near Yamaka is striking. I scan over the people sitting at the tables, but I can't see Hanako. She did say she was sitting outside, so I must just be missing her. Not difficult given how small she usually tries to make her presence. I look around again, more slowly this time, taking particular care to see if I can find Hanako's hatch. Hatch. It's pretty distinctive, and I'd be very surprised if she wasn't wearing it. There she is. Sure enough, her head is kept low, and the table she's sitting at is right beside the building in an inconspicuous corner. I walk up to where she is and make sure that I have her attention before I sit, lest I give her a scare. She notices me, and gives a small wave as I arrive at her table. Are you feeling okay? I try my best to laugh off, but doing so just makes me more out of breath. Not very fit these days, don't mind me. Hanako nods but still looks a bit put off. Now that I can get a good look on her face, something about her seems a bit different. I'm not sure if my eyes are playing tricks on me, but she looks kind of nice. Her eyes move upwards to look at me, before quickly flickering down again. I begin to think that this is going to be a rather quiet meeting, but a waitress thankfully arrives and sits down a cup of tea in front of Hanako. Hanako almost automatically turns slightly away and lowers the side of her head. It's an amazingly practiced motion, and does a good job of its intended purpose, hiding her scars from someone who's leaning close. Her right arm is still lying at the table though, with the scar on the back of her hand quite visible. It catches the waitress's eye, and I move to quickly distract her. Excuse me, may I place an order? The waitress nods and gives me a couple of seconds to look at the menu. Can I have a mango smoothie, please? She gives a nod before almost enthusiastically bouncing aside. Everything's so different in the city, in more ways than one. Hanako looks back up towards me and adjusts her hat a little. If she noticed the waitress staring at her scar, she doesn't show it. Not coffee? I think I'd die from this heat if I had something like coffee right now. Rest in my hand, head in my hand. I look to my quiet companion. She seems taken aback. A very unexpected reaction to my lame joke. An unwelcome emotion bubbles up inside me as I realise her reason why. Unlike most in Yamako, indeed unlike anyone there that I'm aware of, my condition goes beyond limiting the activities I can do, or to be more precise, breaching those limits could have much more grave consequences. Thankfully, it's something that's very rarely come up since I entered Yamako. I thought that it was so rare that Hanako and Lily might not think of it at all. It turns out that I was wrong. Hanako silently drinks her tea while I wait for my drink, confirming that it's the right temperature with a small sip before she begins in earnest. I feel guilty for being the cause of an uncomfortable silence, since in the past I've been kind of hard on Hanako for those. Maybe you should do a bit more openness about what is bothering you, even though the fact that Hanako kind of knows about your condition now. Eventually, the same waitress before bounces up, handing me my drink. I gather the change from my pocket and drop it into her waiting hand. Before she goes off to attend to another customer, my eyes linger on her. She walks away. Do you think that she looks pretty? Hanako's following my gaze, her eyes taking in the waitress that served us. I can feel my blood slowly going to my cheek as I rest my smoothie back on the table. Nah, got really saved. I'm really into that look. She just looked like a lot. Sorry, she just looks a lot like an old friend I knew before my heart attack. Did you have many friends? I had a few at my previous school, but I wouldn't say a lot. Before of us just hung around together after school and stuff. Do you still talk to them? No, we gradually lost contact while I was stuck in hospital. You're not saddened by that? Or angry? Hanako is generally surprised. I guess it's the right reaction. Well, life did move on for them while I was stuck in the ward. I was pretty sure about it at the time, but now it's just a bunch of nice memories. Besides, once I came to Yumako, I found new friends here as well. That's quite a whitewash of what my feelings were back then. I went through some dark times during my stay at the hospital, and I really am glad that Hanako and Lily were around to help me after I left there. Hanako blushes as we both get down to enjoying our drinks. She seems to have calmed down since I arrived, and I've started to feel a little better now that I've had the chance to rest a bit, so this is getting to be a nice outing already. Even though she's calmer than before, though, she's still fidgeting a bit. She runs her hand down one of her bangs as I try to think of something to say. That's right, I was going to ask. Hanako tilts her head quizzically. I didn't know you had a mobile phone. How'd you get my number? Lily gave it to me. Exactly, you should have guessed that. You know, you could have just asked. I'd have given it to you. Want to exchange email addresses? Hanako nods, sitting down her drink and fishing out her phone from her pocket as I do the same. It's surprisingly the same model as mine. Pink though. Nice phone. She looks at me with a curious expression before noticing my phone and giggling. It's one of the very few times I've seen Hanako let her guard down enough to do such a thing. I didn't pick it out myself though. Oh? It was a present from Lily. I've never really needed a phone. I couldn't afford one. She bought me one for Christmas though, saying that we could use it to keep in touch, which is a nice idea. They see each other basically every day anyway, both in and out of school. Then again, Lily does have her class representative duties and other friends that she talks with. It'd probably help for situations like this too, when she's gone away for a while. Lily's a very special person to you, isn't she? She is. I love her very much. Hanako looks down and smiles. Oh yeah, but bad, and you said you hated her. Like, seriously. Hanako looks down and smiles as she thinks of her. None of my friendships were as deep as theirs, and I have to admit that to myself, I'm a little jealous of their relationship. We tell each other our email addresses and thumb them into our respective phones, and I get Hanako's number from earlier and put it into my contacts list. You can just look at your log and go from there. Done. That makes 3 now. 3? Lily, Akira, and you. Ah, Akira, she's an interesting person, isn't she? She is. She is also really nice, though her suit makes her look a bit cool. I'm a little surprised you know each other well, with her job taking up so much of her time. Hanako looks down a little and takes another sip of her drink. If I wasn't looking intently at her face, I'd miss a small smile perched on it. I guess when she knows so few people, those she knows mean a lot to her. How many do you have? Me? About 9 or 10. I hesitate to go into them for fear of rubbing in the fact that Hanako doesn't have... Yeah, I was just thinking about that right now. Especially the parents' part. Well, apparently even close relatives. 2 of those are Shizney and Misha too, which is another can of worms. I imagine that Lily would have more than... Sorry, I imagine Lily would have more than both of us put together, probably. Hanako gives a childish giggle, and I can't help but smiling. It's a good thing that she's gotten this comfortable around me. At times like this, I feel like I'm getting close to talking to her true self. Do you mind if I ask something that I've been wondering? Hanako shakes her head as she takes the last sip of her tea, finishing it off. You don't seem very jealous of Lily having lots of friends. Do you want to make some more friends yourself, or get to know some of hers? I'm not jealous, I don't like people, so I don't mind having not many friends. That's really not the answer that I was expecting. She doesn't look fearful or sad as she says this, but rather quite serious. A tightly knit circle. Hanako rubs her arms awkwardly. Having taken by quietness as a reason to continue, I'm not really sure what I should say, so I'd end up simply giving her my attention in silence. In middle school, I got bullied. A lot. I was called names and got excluded from work groups and sports teams. Those were worse things too. And that's what made you not like other people. She shakes her head. That was elementary school. I felt bad for bringing this up now. Adults have enough problems dealing with Hanako's scarring. Children would be all the worse. I have assumed that the way she tried to make her presence not felt was just not to avoid people staring at her, or because she was afraid of them. Certainly not because she genuinely didn't want to interact with them in the first place as well. I noticed the condensation of my neglected smoothie forming a little puddle around the bottom of the cup, so I take the opportunity to finish it off. As I drink, she begins to fiddle with her phone. It looks like she remembered the people around her again. I begin to tense up. It isn't exactly a cheap phone. I had to save up for quite a while to afford one when I got mine. If Lily went to a private school, she probably wouldn't have too much trouble getting one for a present though. Watching her fiddle with it gives me an idea. Hey Hanako, wait for me. I'll be right back. I put the now empty cup down, slip my phone into my pocket and begin to move off, carefully stepping around the bag I'd placed beside my feet. Thankfully sitting around while talking to Hanako has helped me feel a lot better than before. But wait, where are you going? Just stay here, I'll be back in a bit. As much as I'd like to jog back, I know full well that I couldn't. I end up walking back to the cafe, a little blue bag in my right hand. Hanako noticed me quickly. Looking about as confused as she did when I left, I deposit the diminutive bag in front of her and sit back down. Is this? It's for you, you can open it. But go on. She looks very sure about it, but eventually gives in, slowly opens the bag and picks its contents out. Ah, is it all? A silver chain phone strap dangles from her fingers, ending a delicate flower. It isn't exactly a masterwork of jewelry, but it's about as much as I could afford. It's called the thought that counts. Hanako's eyes light up when she looks at it. It's the kind of reaction I was hoping for. The summer sun's light glints off the silver as it twists to and fro a little. It's not too ostrandious, but it still looks a little charming. I think it suits her. Hanako lowers the phone strap to the table and looks at me once more. But it's not Christmas, or my birthday. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I just thought it might be nice to have something to decorate your phone with. I don't have anything to give to you. I told you it's fine. Friends can give things to each other like this sometimes, right? Friends. Hanako lowers her face so much but I can't see her expression. She eventually nods before taking her phone and fiddling with the strap to attach it properly. Aww. She looks at me and smiles. She holds up her phone, now adorned with a little flower. Thank you, Hisao. Her smile proves infectious. Out of the corner of my eye, I notice a couple getting up and leaving. That reminds me that the bus back to the town below Yumako will be coming soon. I guess I better be going if I want to catch the next bus back to town. You coming as well? Yes. She hastily nods before carefully putting her phone back into her pocket and getting out of her chair. I do the same and pick up the bag I'd left beside me on the way out. We walk side by side as we make our way to the bus station, exchanging no words between us. Hanako's gaze is firmly locked ahead of her, though she looks very happy with herself. I'm not sure what I should say to her, but I'm also not sure that I need to say anything. The fact that Hanako is happy, and happy because of me, is enough to make the load on my arm feel a little, feel light like a feather. Something along those lines. I wish I could speak. For goodness sakes, Flare, speak! Finally reaching the classroom after the usual walk from the dormitories, I step inside. My eyes immediately turn to the third seat from the left in the back row, Hanako's seat. It's empty, and after glancing around the classroom, it looks like she isn't here yet. The two girls from the newspaper club are here in the two seats to the left of Hanako's, as are Shizney and Misha, but that's about it. We exchange morning greetings before I take my seat. I have to admit that this is a bit of a relief. It gives me at least a few more minutes to think. Not that I haven't been doing so previously, ever since our trip to town. Hanako's been on my mind. I still don't know what to make of my relationship to Hanako. I like her. I can admit that much to myself. I want to protect and shield her from the pain she feels, but that's not possible. I really don't think my feelings are just those of friendship anymore. But that said, I feel like I don't even know her. If I made a move on her, how would she take it? Bad. Is she in an emotional state that allows her to make a reasonable decision about a relationship? How will she cope with anything that might happen afterwards? There's also a possibility that I'm just completely misinterpreting Hanako. Not a difficult thing to do when someone whose social skills seems to be so underdeveloped. But we do hear footsteps. The sound of footsteps coming up to the door making me perk up. And it ends up just being Miki. It's just being Miki. Hello. She barely acknowledges my existence when I actually make eye contact with her. I'm about to look away, but another person comes in not long after she takes her seat. Hello, Hanako. I feel myself freeze as I see Hanako enter. This isn't a rational reaction, but I have no idea about how I should act or what I should say to her. For a moment our eyes meet. And then, just as quickly, she looks away and moves to her seat without saying a single word. What do those mean? As is now usual for the period following classes, my face is buried deep in a book that I found thoroughly uninteresting. Studying is not something that comes naturally to me. I didn't study a lot before coming to Yumako, and until now I've largely managed to coast through on talent alone. I could never do that. It's frustrating, but I can't do that anymore. Judging by the faces of the other few students in the library, I don't think I'm alone in my distaste for this. Misery loves company, I suppose. I decided to spend lunchtime with Hanako. Since we haven't had lunchtime together for a while now, I may as well have spent the time studying though. Aside from pathetically small snippets of small talk, there was barely a word said between us. Why does she keep doing this to me? I just want to protect and be there for her, but every time I feel like we're coming closer, we end up further away. Are you busy? Hanako! My head whips around in surprise, causing her to retreat in fright. That was bad timing. If I hadn't been thinking about her at the very moment, I probably wouldn't have been nearly so startled. Sorry, you just startled me. I found myself staring at her longer than I should, so I should go back to the text lying on the table in front of me. I feel like I'm just staring at the words rather than actually reading. I get a feeling Hanako can notice this as well, so I sigh and close the book. What's up? I was just wondering what you were reading. She looks a little downcast after my reaction to seeing her. Giving up on the prospect of getting any more work done, I get up and return the book to its place on a nearby shelf. Just an English textbook. Has it helped? It helped me realise I don't like English. Hanako gives a small giggle. I may muse on the strange state of our friendship, but I do know that such little gestures are things that I wouldn't see were I not at least some distance closer to her than when we first met. I look at her for a moment, think about what to do, and don't know about her. It's a slightly depressing topic. Is something wrong? If I want to know more about her, maybe I should stop being so evasive about it. Talking with Lydia is an equal rather than being constantly in fear of causing her to become upset works fine. So I should just try a straightforward approach with Hanako as well. Hey Hanako, do you mind if I ask you a question? I don't mind. I want to know what your life was like. Your life before coming to Yumako. She hesitates. I briefly consider backing off, but she seems to be taking the question quite seriously. I sit and watch her, silently letting her take some time. She's not making eye contact with me, and looks almost as if she's arguing herself into letting herself open up to me more. Her answer finally comes in a stiff, almost reluctant nod. She looks far more tense than she did before I asked. Okay, but in return, you have to tell me about your life as well. There's a mutual agreement in that. I nod and follow her. She begins to walk out of the library so we can talk. By now, most of the students have already left the main building, so apart from a few people hovering around the club rooms, the hallways are largely empty. I guess we'll start with coming to you, Mako. Let's see. I was in hospital with my parents when my parents first told me about Yumako Academy. But doctors told me I shouldn't go to my old school anymore. My parents agreed and persuaded me to apply for Yumako, even though it would mean living away from them for the first time. It must have been hard for you. Well, yeah. I have to admit that it was. My parents both working long hours and full time, so having to live reasonably independently wasn't anything new to me. It was the fact that I was going to a school for disabled students that hit hardest, I think. And you? A small group of chatting girls passes us as we near the stairs, with Hanako pressing herself tightly to my side until we reach the ground floor. She doesn't usually come this close while just walking the school, so I'm left a little put off. The staff at the orphanage offered me some options of what to do. Middle school hadn't been good, so I thought that Yamako might be better. It was isolated, and I thought it might be easier to get by here with most of the others being disabled. It's pretty ironic that the reasons Hanako looked forward to Yamako were exactly the exact reasons I hated the idea. To me, it felt like I was being shunted somewhere away from society and everyone I knew. To Hanako, this is probably an inviting prospect. Yep. Looking at it now, Hanako always has had this since the fire, so therefore going somewheres which could provide some kind of isolation away from society, also being alone in a small town, is definitely the inviting part. But for Hisao, it was the complete reverse. He didn't want to leave the city life and go into an isolated place. What was life like at the orphanage? It was okay. The staff there were nice and they took care of us. The children there didn't talk to me much, but I didn't really want to talk with them either, so I didn't mind. The orphanage had a little library, so I started to read to pass the time. The staff didn't mind it because it made me easier to handle than many of the other children. You didn't make any friends there? No, I think my life was on hold during that time. I knew that, but I didn't mind. To think her life was on hold for all the time, though, depending on when the fire happened, there was a huge chunk of her life. No parents, no friends, apparently no relatives. We walked through the door into the courtyard. I expect to need to avert my eyes from the sun, but by now it's well into sunset. Hanako's eyes keep flickering to me, so I look away from her for a bit. What was it like in the hospital? I quickly clear my thoughts and try to refocus them. I hesitate for a bit, but I know if I have to tell her. We're close enough for her to feel comfortable telling me this, so it's only fair that I reciprocate. It was okay at times, but at other times it was pretty bad. At the beginning, everyone sent their sympathies, and came to visit often. It was just like breaking an arm or something. Meeting all my friends was one of the good times. Our Hanako came in often as well, more often than anyone else. But there were bad times, too. When my friends slowly stopped visiting, I began to realize how grave my situation was. It reminded me that this wasn't just a broken limb, but that I was now a different person than before. Even the times Hanako would spend with me became torturous. By the end, we were reduced to silence, whereas before she'd be talking constantly. But that's how Hanako always was. She may have been a fragile person, but she would just talk constantly to try and hide that fact. Not about anything in particular, just talk. I think the three lowest points would have been when my parents told me I wouldn't be going to my old school anymore, my birthday passing while in the hospital, and when Hanako left for the last time. We leave the school buildings behind us and we begin to follow the main path through the gardens. They may have been the odd bystander of the school buildings, but outside we're practically alone. What was your middle school like? I liked it. I grew up in a really metropolitan... I know how to say this word, for goodness sakes. Metropolitan area, and the middle school was nearby, so it was pretty crowded. I didn't mind, probably because I'm used to being in crowds and around lots of other people. I got good grades, and I played soccer with my friends. I spent a fair bit of time hanging around with them after school as well. Did get teased a bit over my hair though. Your hair? I grimaced as I put my hand over my head to cover it. I kept getting tufts and strands that refused to flatten or stay where I wanted them, and my mother wouldn't let me just get my hair shaved. It had a habit of popping out no matter how much I tried to brush it down. It still does a little. I was worried I'd get that reply. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I give a mild laugh and wave it off. It's fine, I know it still does. It feels strange to have someone act so interested in my past. If it were anyone else, I think they were just acting polite. But that's something I really don't think Hanako would do. Or if she did, she'd do it so badly that it would be obvious. There are a number of girls in the common room on the ground floor, and Hanako presses herself to my side once more as we pass them. I expect her to break off, but instead she continues to cling on to me as we walk towards the stairway. Something about the way she's holding on to me feels different from the usual. I'm left deep in thought as we walk up the stairs and down the hallway. It's only when we stop that I look up and realize I've been following her without question. Why did we come to your dormitory room? She looks straight at the door without so much as a glance in my direction. Hanako? She moves to answer but stops herself. Instead, she suddenly breaks from my side, opens the door and steps inside. I look up and down the hallway, a bit lost in exactly what I should do, shrugging and decide to follow her since I don't have any reason to do otherwise. Hanako stands in the middle of her room and looks straight at me. It's unnerving when she does this, as it's such an unusual action for her. I open my mouth to speak, but she preempts me. Can you close and lock the door? Hanako's hand reaches for her chest, grabbing her blouse at her heart. Okay. I turn and lock the door shut. I see. The atmosphere is beginning to feel quite strange. This feeling has only made me more profound when I hear the curtains being pulled behind me. It's going to be night soon. Yeah. I think there's something else as well. Something that she wants to show you. Something that's predominantly on the right side of her body. I gulp and turn around very, very slowly. Hanako is in the center of the room, but hasn't turned back to face me. You told me about your past, so I have to tell you mine. She takes a deep shuddering breath, and pauses for a number of seconds. Her hands move to her ribbon and begin to tug, all but confirming my thoughts. Hanako, please don't say anything or do anything. I obediently say hush as she slips off her ribbon and continues to unbutton her blouse before working the cup of a bar. The process is slow. Perhaps it just feels slow because of what she's doing. I'm not sure. Throws into the spot. All I could do is watch Hanako, hands trembling, unclips her shirt and lets it drop to the ground. Okay. Finally, she takes her blouse in her hands and draws it off, her bra falling from her shoulders. And so, Hanako stands in the middle of the room, all but bared, save for her stockings and underwear. Yeah, this is me. All of me. My eyes are immediately drawn to the scar in her back. The skin on her right side is of a similar texture to that on her face, but it's also scratched taut and covering a much larger area. The scar is by far the worst on the shoulder, buttock, and thigh. Just as my heart attack would define my life, this is the evidence that redefined Hanako's. If I'd seen this when I first met her, I'd have been shocked, not only at the sight, but also at the idea that something like this was survivable. But after having had time to get used to the idea, and after seeing the scars on her face, hands and collar, my reaction is more measured. My reaction right now is not due to her scarring but to her body. The fire happened when I was 8 years old. It was night, and we were sleeping when it started. Hanako's voice trembles. The shaking of her blouse gives away the fact that her hands are doing just the same. I curled up into a ball. When the fire swept over me, my mother tried to shield me. That's the only reason I lived. I get where this is going. Hanako's eyes begin to moisten, her voice cracking under the combined pressure of exposing herself to me like this, and reliving those painful memories for so long ago. I want to say something, anything to make her feel better. I can't though. and I don't think there's anything you can say. I feel completely useless when faced with a situation like this. She's forcing herself to come so close, yet it's at times like this that I feel most distance to her. I'm sorry for making you see this. There's no point denying the obvious. I think what I should say now, and what Hanako wants me to say now, is the truth. What I genuinely honestly believe. It doesn't matter. You're a wonderful person, Hanako. Your body doesn't change that. She looks at me for a long time, her breathing uneven as she tries to remain steady amidst the emotions we're both feeling. It feels less like she's looking at me than she's looking through me. I slowly walk towards her and gently place my hand on her shoulder as she lets go of her blouse. She gasps a little, not in fright but in simple startlement. Being so close to her causes my mind to become a jumble of feelings. The scar on her shoulder, plain to see and leather, light to the touch, conflicts strangely with her otherwise soft skin and silky dark hair. Hanako is a girl. With all that entails, she's taller than usual for a woman, but still has curves in all the right places. The nape of her neck, which is visible thanks to her hair, sun over her shoulder, is alluring. I know that I'm not pretty, like Lily. I just want you to see me, the real me. I've already seen the real you, though. You don't need to take off your clothes. Okay, I didn't. Emmy's rude keeps persisting in these ones, for goodness sakes. Ah. I turn my face towards Hanako, who's already looking at me. Her expression looks pretty dazed, but underneath that, there's definitely a look of concern. She's realised what happened. Yeah, she has definitely realised what happened. I'm okay. Everything's back to normalcy. I find myself barely able to get the words out between breaths. I don't think that would tire a body out this. You'd be surprised about how much exercise that is. So I've no doubt my condition's at least partially at fault. Why does my body have to do this right now? All thoughts of my heart, though, I push aside as I see the wide smile forming in Hanako's face. It is indeed a better sight than what we just portrayed. The only route that has spared us from that kind of editing out so far is Rin's. As always, I smile, well, multiple times that is. I smile back without another thought. Hanako's smile has always been infectious. It's almost child sweetness and honesty, something that sets her apart from anyone else I know. Right now, we don't need words. If we want to communicate to each other, we can just share. We can share just fine without them. And to sleep we go. Aha, you remember. My eyes feel heavy as they slowly open. The light from outside making me blink a bit to let them get adjusted. My body feels like lead, and my head feels just as heavy. Waking to an unfamiliar scene is an uncomfortable thing. It reminds me of the first time I awoke to a dimpled white tile ceiling on the hospital. It's only after spending a few seconds staring up that I realise where I am. This is Hanako's dormitory room. I feel as though my heart stopped again as the events of last night rushed through my head. Blood rushed to my cheeks. I shut my eyes once more. There's very little point to getting myself worked up this early though, so I try to push such things out of my mind for now. I roll my head to the side to see that Hanako is where she was when I drifted off to sleep. All that's left now is an empty space on the bed and the room beyond. I sluggishly sit back up and rub my eyes before pinching the bridge of my nose and looking around the room. The only person here is me. I'm still bereft of my clothes. After a quick scan of the floor with them, I notice they're neatly folded into a corner. Try as I might, I can't see Hanako's anywhere. The foil packet from the... Moving on. With a great yawn, I get myself out of the bed and quickly look for some that. I grimace a little at the prospect of putting my boxes back on after yesterday's efforts did a job of them, but I don't have much of a choice. Taking knowledge of the fact that I have some time without anyone around, I get myself dressed for the day, coming to school day in short order, and then I'm alone. Without anything more to busy myself with, my mind becomes focused on the fact that I'm standing in another person's bedroom after we spent some night together, but there's not a single sign of her around. My guts prove to be more helpful than my brain at working out this riddle. With a loud growl reminds me that she may as well be just getting breakfast. I would have liked to wake up next to her, but maybe it's a good thing that I have a few moments alone. Hanako's room as always is quite bleak in appearance. There are precious few decorations, practically no personal artifacts that aren't hidden away in cupboards and drawers. She's lived here for 3 years, but the room looks as if it's barely been occupied for a single day. I shouldn't overthink this. Shizune might just like living this way, as some do. Having the ability to put such low stock in physical possessions does have its advantages, but even so, it feels a little discontorting given her past. She said she viewed herself as having had her life on hold while at the orphanage. She certainly lives as she still does, but after what happened last night, wink wink, it's pretty hard to imagine that she still thinks that way. The sound of a door handle cracks through my thoughts and I turn to face it. Sure enough, Hanako comes through and shuts the door behind her. She has what seem to be 2 microwave instant meals in her hands, so this is a little difficult. Good morning, Hanako. Morning. She gives us a bow before making her way to her desk, sitting down both plates. I can now see them to be small satay dishes, their contents steaming, with a fork stuck inside the rice of each. I give thanks to her for bringing them in, and we each take one and get down to eating. She sits on her desk while I sit on the side of the bed. I don't like talking while eating, so the silence between us isn't annoying in and of itself. It's the fact that it only exists because we don't quite know what to say to each other that's just off-putting. Hanako glances towards me every so often as she eats. I only notice her doing so because I'm doing just the same thing. We're eating together as if we're a couple. First with both of us, something feels wrong though. Maybe that's why we can't even say a word to each other as we finish our plates and leave them in the sink. Maybe that's why we leave Hanako's room without holding hands or making small talk. Maybe that's why it feels as though we're further apart than we've ever been before. We enter the classroom together, neither of us get so much as glance at each other. Just after we do so, I realise that this may have been a mistake. Shizune lifts her eyebrow at the sight, her suspicions rise. We reach the centre aisle between the classroom's desks and look at each other. I'm not quite sure what I say. Does she want me to address her as a girlfriend? I don't think our relationship was. Oh, that's why it feels so strange. See you. Okay. I quickly hold up a hand as we part and take our seats at our respective desks. I can't even look back to her out of embarrassment. I feel like the gulf between Hanako and me is because of me. And Shizune begins to make her way towards me with her Mewtwo enters the room. I'm thankful for his arrival being so well timed, drawing Shizune and her questioning away to wait for another time. I wouldn't be able to answer her anyway. I like Hanako, but I never told her what my feelings for her are. Hanako never said she saw me as anything beyond a friend either. Yet despite that, we slept together. We don't need to announce that to the whole class. The bell to signal the beginning of the lunch rings out. Mito is taken a little off guard, his chemistry lesson being cut off mid-sentence, much to his chagrin. For the entirety of the class, he is rambling has passed through one ear and out of the other as my mind mulls over the question of Hanako. I can't get out of my mind, and by now I've managed to wind myself up about it. I realise that she never said yes to what we did. She doesn't say no either, but would she have been able to? She's extremely submissive at best at times, and no doubt it took her a gargantuan effort to show me her scarring, yet I decided to try and at least make conversation with her. That would be better than the monosyllabic conversation that's been the most we've managed between each other so far today. I walk to her desk intending to chat, but she awkwardly blushes and looks down even before I've come up to her. I take a breath to speak, but find myself lost for words. What in the world should I say to her? Hearing approaching footsteps, I turn to see Shizune and Misha already making their way towards us, no doubt with the intent of start asking trouble with some things. A couple of other classmates are looking at us and gossiping between themselves as they're throwing sidelong glances, but must have also noticed that Hanako and me coming in together earlier. I open my mouth to reassure Hanako, but she preempts me. I've got to go do something! That was the first time when we saw Hanako. She gets out of her chair and dashes through the door. A couple of the books and pens that were on her desk are sent falling to the floor in hush rush. Not many people seem to care about this event. A few look around to see what all the fuss is about, but go back to what they were previously doing soon after. I'm left despairingly looking at the door Hanako disappeared out of. The idea of running after her passes through my mind, but I'm very sure that Hanako can run faster than I can. And besides, what I'd say to her once I caught up anyway? Eventually I'll simply crouch down and begin picking up the items that had fallen to the ground from her desk. I feel low in every way, reduced to this as students pass by me on their way out of the room. I feel a tap on my shoulder, love to see Shizunie and Misha looking at me curiously about the situation with some of their faces, mixed with a slightly apologetic look at her face, but they were partially responsible for what just happened. Hi Chan, if we could help at all. I just shake my head. This is a matter for them, and from Shizunie's expression and the tone of Misha's voice, I think they know the same thing. Shizunie acknowledges my response, and gives a solemn bow before making her way out of the room. Misha soon follows her out, obediently following her role as Shizunie's shadow. I pick myself up, books and pens in hand, and place them inside Hanako's desk. With the classroom now empty, I am just leaning against her desk I'm thinking to myself in silence. There we go. I feel like there's a complete emotional disconnect between Hanako and me. We haven't known each other for all that long, and despite wanting to start going out with her, I really don't know that much about how Hanako views things. I've been studying hard as I can for exams, but I still don't feel like I have any real sense of direction behind it. I try to be a friend to Hanako, even if I couldn't tell her my feelings, and all we've done is drive each other apart. I could even write a letter back to the one girl who ever loved me, Hanako. What should I do? What can I do? I simply don't know the answer to either of those questions. I do know that nobody else can help me with them. Just going back to the way things were would be enough to make me happy, but I know that it can never happen. Something changed between us last night. Maybe it changed beforehand, and it just came to a head then. I don't think so, actually. Change, yes, but I think there's a more positive spin, and I don't think she would have made breakfast for you if she did felt a disconnect from you. I know that there's a wall that Hanako has between me and her. I've been hitting that wall every time I try to interact with her on any level, but now I'm beginning to think that I have my own wall between us just as much as she does. She had to practically drag my past out of me, and mine was much less traumatic than hers. I want to say it's because I haven't had long to adjust since my heart attack, but I know full well that it would be just an excuse. For one time I can recall when it really felt like she was opening up to me of her own accord was when we were playing billiards in the city. I was the one who stopped her from going further. I want to know Hanako better. I want to save our friendship, if not begin a real relationship with her. My mind begins to tick as I sit against her desk, think to myself in the empty classroom that we've spent so much time in together. I have to talk to Hanako. I pace around the park, feelings of anxiety rolling over me. Every so often I reach into my pocket to take up my phone, but each and every time I hesitate and end up slipping it back in. If this were any normal situation, I wouldn't be cutting classes. Unfortunately, it isn't, and so I find myself in the town below the school and 2 in the afternoon. Ever since I met Hanako, I've been wanting to initiate everything between us. For one that started conversations, wanted to hear wherever she was, and suggested what we should do today. Today, this once, I don't want to be the only one doing that. My hand dives to the pocket once more. This time I quickly navigate to the texting menu before I have a chance to change my mind again. Hanako, if you want to talk, I'll be at the park in town for a while. Fighting a last measure of doubt, I thumb in my message to Hanako and press the button to send it. And now, I wait. My part in this has been fulfilled. What needs to happen now is for Hanako to make that decision. It would be meaningless for me to drag her here. She needs to decide for herself whether she wants to meet me. The apple juice from the vending machine tastes awfully bitter as I swallow it down. My grip on the can has caused it to dent slightly in the middle. I shouldn't be this tense, but it's practically inevitable. Hanako's dear to me. What happened in the last couple of days has put a lot of pressure on both of us. The idea of losing all the progress we've made in coming closer to one another, and losing our friendship as a whole is deeply unsettling. But even then, I still don't really know how close we are. We have had that. But before that, all I knew us to be were friends. Maybe we are more than that, but if so, I never realized that. Maybe that's why I feel so uneasy right now. I don't understand Hanako. Despite all the time we spent together, the minutes are ticking by. I have no idea whether she'll show up. Hi, Sal? I paused for a moment, almost not believing I'm hearing the voice I am hearing. I drop the can and stand up with a start. Hanako. We look at each other for a few seconds, before Hanako becomes too embarrassed to maintain eye contact, begins to nervously fiddle with a roughly cut lock of hair covering the side of her face. When I went to see Hanako in her room by myself after her breakdown, I have no idea what to say. That was fine then. All either of us wanted was each other's presence. Now though, I feel like I need to talk to her directly. I want to break down this wall between us, before it forces us apart for good. Hanako, what we did last night. How should I interpret that? Hanako stops playing with her hair and looks at me. Her head cast slightly downwards. She looks ashamed, which is probably a good mirror of how I would look if I wasn't so concerned. I thought you might eventually go away if I was only someone you need to protect. I thought that if I let you do that, you might see me as someone more than that. My first reaction is disbelief, but I did do it with her. After all, I've had plenty of opportunities where I could have stopped things, stepped back and questioned what we were doing. In the end though, I didn't. A horrible feeling rises in the pit of my stomach. She offered herself to me because of what she thought I wanted, and now it feels like I took advantage of her. She may have been willing, but only under false premises. I've never been good at hiding my emotions from physically showing, and now it's no different. Hanako looks down once more, a strange mixture of depression, regret and sickness written on her face. Thick silence hangs in the air, save for the breeze blowing through the trees around us. I knew you couldn't look at me that way. Hanako's words are said in little more than a whisper, seemingly directed just as much to herself as to me. In what way? What do you mean? All I ever was to you was a useless person, just someone to protect, someone like a child. I wanted to be more to you than that, but after so long, I got used to it. The tone of her voice is unlike any I've heard her use before. She sounds disgusted, not at me, but herself. After I came out of my room, I saw that you had started drifting away. I felt that I was going to lose you because you wanted somebody you could have that kind of relationship with. You were more quiet in school than before, and you were getting on so well with Yuko. I thought that I might lose you. She thought I was bored of her because I wanted a romantic relationship, but we're friends, right? I wouldn't just abandon you like that, even if what you're saying was true. Friendship was something I thought I'd given up on. I stopped believing others after what happened after the accident. Before the accident happened, I got on well with people and other children. I didn't have many friends, but I didn't mind because I treasured the ones I had. Afterwards though, I was called names by the others and teased a lot. It hurt really deeply. The teachers tried to help, but they couldn't do much, and even many of them recoiled just at the sight of me. Among those calling me names and teasing me were the ones that I thought were my closest friends. From then on, I believe that it didn't matter if nobody else acknowledged me. All my existence ever did was make people troubled after all. That's not true. It was easier if I just didn't exist. But after meeting Lily, and then you, I tried, but I couldn't make myself think that way again. All that time, she didn't trust me. She thought, just like everyone else in her life had, that she was worthless. Someone to throw away once I got bored of being with her. That hurts. That's the one kind of person I never ever wanted to be seen as. Because I know that most just how horrible it feels to be thrown away by those I thought liked me. She's cracking from the moment she brings up. I feel useless, completely unable to console her. In a strange way though, I'm almost thankful that she's allowed me to know this. The wall between us is going away, even if it hurts so badly to bring them down. Hanako, if you just told me, was I wrong? You know you're not wrong. Of course she wasn't. Hanako wasn't wrong. It's difficult to force myself to admit this, but I know that trying to deny is pointless. To me and to Lily, she was someone we tried to protect. She had become to me what I became to my friends after my heart attack. A broken person. I liked her, possibly even loved her, but I never acted on that precisely because I thought she was so fragile. I mean, I don't look at you that way now. I got worried about you after what happened to you in class, and I thought I should just try to protect you. When you locked yourself in your room, though, I got afraid. I thought you were rejecting me, and it forced me to think a lot about different things. I wasn't rejecting you, she blurts it out with an almost scared tone of her voice, taking me off guard. She quickly becomes embarrassed by her outburst before clenching her fist and working through what she wants to say in her mind. I won't ever do that. Not to you. Even though I was scared, even though I tried to push you away, you still tried to get closer to me. I locked myself away because I was just a burden to you, to Lily, to everyone. Every birthday was the same. Everyone doing their best to pretend that I mattered. Everyone pretending everything was alright. For that one day of the year. I didn't want to exist, but they wouldn't let me. Even after meeting Lily, everything was the same. I was as useless as I'd always been, unable to do anything for her, or for myself. I didn't want to be the same way to you. Lily and I were completely wrong, but what she said, everything we did for her, it would have only made her feel worse. Even what little I thought had right about her was a complete misjudgment. After you locked yourself in your room, I decided to try and work out my past as well, and sort out my future. I didn't know how to deal with the things I'd lost by coming to Yumako, so I was trying to sort them out as well. Nearly 3 hours and 20 minutes through this recording. I thought it would help us become better friends if I did that. Silence, hands in the air again. I try to keep looking at her, but I can't. I feel really low. And if I want to apologize, I don't know how I possibly could. I hear her take a deep breath, and I look back to her after hearing her drop to the ground. Damn. The sound of her crying breaks my heart. I know I'm responsible for this, and I know I can't do anything to help her. If Hanako feels ashamed, then I feel all the more so. Damn. I rushed to her as tears continued to roll down her cheeks, unabated, wrapping my arms around her. I don't care about how I must look anymore. I just want to be close to her right now. Damn. I'm sorry, Hisao. I've messed up everything. It's fine. Everything's fine. I'm the one that should be sorry. I was meddling around behind your back and I never told you anything. I can feel my grip tighten on Hanako as my vision blurs. I can't be bothered trying to hold back now. I have to force my words out as a lump begins to stick in my throat. To tell you the truth, Hanako, I was scared. For the first time since my heart attack, I was really scared. Hisao? I lost so much when I came to Yumako. I was dependent on you more than I ever thought I did. Even now, I still have that hole inside me after losing my entire life and everyone I'd known before of losing you as well. You're not useless. You're my friend, Hanako. You're more than that. I love you, Hanako. I love you so much, but the thought of losing you frightened me so much. Oh, this is bad. I'm really letting out all of this out, but I can't bring myself to look at her face right now. I'm sorry, Hisao. I can't help feeling a bit happy. For so long, that's what I've wanted to hear. At the last of her floodgates breaks, the sound of her crying permeates in the air as her body jerks against mine. We hold each other tightly, connected more closely than ever in our shared grief and our shared happiness. I don't know how things are going to be like after this. Right now, though, I don't care. There's no other person in the world that either of us could possibly share these memories and emotions with. Nobody. Damn. After dropping the dirty cannon into a bin next to a bench, I take a seat beside Hanako. She puts away the handkerchief I gave to clean herself up, which hasn't helped much. Then again, I doubt I look much more presentable. Oh my god, that was disgusting what I just did there. Even though I feel emptied and a bit embarrassed after letting my emotions out in public like that. It's not a bad sensation though. I think Hanako feels the same way. Have you calmed down a bit? Yes, thank you. For a while we just sit and take our time before talking again to one another. We both need a little time to collect ourselves. The weather is nice at this time of year. Yeah, it was. It is, I mean. And a little bit of sleep. I close my eyes for a moment, relishing the feeling of the sun's heat and the cool breeze against my face. The weather is really nice today. Really, really nice. You know, I don't really want to go back to classes right now. Do you? She shakes her head as she finishes wiping her eyes with her cuff. The small smile she gives is nice, and it's a reminder of how earnest it can be. Smiling for other people might be a completely normal, everyday thing. For Hanako, though, she smiles so rarely and so sincerely that each and every time she does it, I feel a sense of relief and happiness. I'm sorry for everything. It's okay. I think we both have to be a bit sorry for. I know that. I'm too shy. I know you don't want me to be. I don't think I can. You can change, Hanako. I know that because even in the time I've known you, you've already changed. To be honest, just being able to sit here and talk to you like this means that you've changed a lot since we first met. But I can't be like that for anyone else. I don't have any plans for after school ends either. Hanako's confidence begins to slide down once again, but I think that now I can finally talk to her as an equal. I can do it because I know that we're just the same in so many ways. Just give yourself time, and I think you'll be able to achieve what you want. No, I'm sure that you'll be able to do it. I can see I can see you've been trying, and I have faith in you. And you can depend on me if you feel like you need someone to support you, you know. But I can't ask that of you. You can. Because that's exactly what I'm asking of you. I'm going through the same thing, you know. It's called love. Aww. Hanako smiles before I get off the bench and dust myself off. She does the same in short measure. I'm kinda hungry. Want to grab something to eat? She nods vigorously. The way she's smiling, the way she's acting, even just the general air she gives off, I feel as if this is the first time I've seen her genuinely happy. We both make our way onto the street, walking beside each other. Hi, Sal? Yeah? I think I don't really understand you. I don't think I understand you either. I believe that's fine though. There's not a single hint of despair in our voices. Not understanding each other is only neutral. The rules we set up between ourselves couldn't possibly be broken down in a single day. But that's fine. As long as we can take it day by day, and try to understand one another, I think everything will be okay. As we walk down the street though, Hanako's eyes flick to my face and back to the street repeatedly. Is something on your mind? You look restless. She slows before stopping completely. When I turn to meet her, she takes a long, deep breath, just looking at my face intently. This expression, I saw it once before in her face, just once, when I actually surprised her in her room. I think I have something I need to give you. What is it? You don't need to be evasive about it. I wanted to give you this for a long, long time, but now that I need to, it's too embarrassing. Don't worry, I'll accept whatever it is. She gives a sweet, bashful smile before taking my shoulder in her hand. Then, please accept my first gift to you, Hisao. Hanako? I see, that kind of gift, that's sweet. Aww, and there's people around there giggling and stuff like that. What the hell? What the hell? Why is some, like, Professor... Oh, there's muffins there. Is there somebody in the store? I don't know. All I'm thinking of is that oh, that's a wonderful outcome. Honestly, such a wonderful outcome for the two of them there. That was just such a powerful... Yeah, short route, I'm not going to lie. That is quite a short route. But I'm incredibly heart-soothed and heartbroken at the same time. It's a simultaneous pain of feeling very, very remorseful, but you get a feeling that Hanako has been through a hell of a time, from going from her childhood to being at the way she is now. It must have taken her so much mental confidence to just be able to open up to another person that she doesn't even know in her life. Like, the first encounter at that library was everything. Like, if Hisao chose to be more approaching rather than being more reserving of that time, then I don't think this route would have been possible. But that was such a tearing route. Such a heartbreaking, emotional, tearing route, that it was just so powerful in its own ways. Like, really powerful. Gallery. 9. That's Shizune. That's still Shizune. That's Rin. Okay. Oh, here's Hanako. So, yeah, that's the bad ending. That's towards the good ending. There's still something here, actually, on the bottom right. Maybe it's another route in some ways. It could be referring to Lily, but then again, there's still some CGs here that I've yet to get at. Yeah, this was really heartbreaking in its own ways. Really heartbreaking. But in a way, it went from complete distraught to not a complete turnaround, but it's still a turnaround in its own ways. And yeah, here's another thing as well. Yeah. That's possibly one of the best gifts you could probably receive as a person. Like, spending time with somebody for a long amount of time, and then it's not a physical gift. Well, not physical as in like it's a gift that is within a material form, but it's still a gift in its own way. And for whether Hanako said that it was something that she wanted to give to him for a long time, just made it all the more visible that in the fact of this, it's just so wonderful in its own ways. I don't know the proper words to describe it, but it's wonderful. But anyways, folks, that is all that she wrote for Hanako's route. I'm pretty sure there's some minor differences if you chose like to go for student council rather than ditching them when they approached us to go with them. But my gosh, yeah, the house spy as well. That was real bad. Real bad. This is really nice though. Seeing her smile like this with the present she got. One further image not unlocked. Damn. Okay, folks, that is going to be all that she wrote. Thank you so much for watching, and in the next and last route is going to be one of the two best girls in the game. Hanako is one of the two. Lily is one of the other two. But this is the only one we haven't been through yet so far. Have a wonderful day, folks, and take care of yourselves.